Good morning. It is August 8th. We're here for our regular scheduled commissioner meeting. We have a full slate of commissioners. We have our administrator and our clerk of the board. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise and join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of vouchers. I believe we have two today.
2 vouchers. Move for approval of fund expenditures in the total amount of $312,954.93 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by 2 representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Move for approval of salary clearing payroll and emergency management payroll in the total amount of $1,198,940.69 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by 2 representatives of the auditor's office.
Second with a question.
Question?
Are we no longer having these reviewed by the county administrator?
Mr. Gonzalez, have you reviewed these?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would ask then that in the future we would add a signature line on these documents as we do for the other expenditures so that we can have a record of that review. Thank you. Second.
There's already been a second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we'll move down to the consent agenda. We have 9 items on the consent agenda, and I ask that item number 3, Mr. Gonzalez has asked that this be pulled for further research. Correct, Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, sir, because we wanted to see if we could pay for this through the contingency fund perhaps and see the stipulations of ARPA a little bit further.
Okay.
So,
Further research on that. And then I would like to add that I would like item number 8 pulled for separate discussion and vote. Is there any other requests from the commissioners?
No additional requests. I would just concur on pulling item 3 for the reasons stated and no objection to pulling item 8.
Second.
Okay, so I ask for the approval of 1, 2, 4 through 7 and number 9.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for consent items 1, 2, 4 through 7 and number 9. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. On number 8, agreement to extend the lease of the Tri-City Amateur Hockey Association through August 31st. With this month already being almost over, we're going to be going back to this shortly. And I know we went through the process of you interviewing the RFP for the HAPO. Is there any way we can give them a little bit more assurance than the end of the month, or?
yeah, and that was a decision that I wanted to make to get through the RFP process, so there's clarity for the next operator. Perhaps it's SVM, but I want to give the Hockey Association assurances. We're not trying to push them out in any capacity, but the next operator, whoever that might be, I wanted to give them a clean slate because there's been a lot of conversation back and forth, sort of the future, the direction, how they want to operate the facility, and sort of our input in terms of capital expenditures and things like that. So
Do you think we'll have it all wrapped up by the end of the month for the new operator?
I think so. So we've gone through the HAPO Advisory Board. The Strategic Growth Committee met with all the folks for oral interviews this past Thursday. So there was a request from one of the applicants to come in and speak with the commissioners. So I have offered that and extended for them to come in, and it would be an agenda item where they could present a final PowerPoint, take some questions and answers from the commissioners. And I think that's an important component because the advisory board has had an opportunity to speak with all the applicants. Strategic Growth Committee, made up of elected officials and department heads, had. And I think from a transparency standpoint, it would be very important for the commissioners to have the opportunity to speak with the applicants to see their vision and who ultimately is the best fit.
Mr. Gonzalez, you've offered that opportunity to all the bidders, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, I just want the assurance, I want them to hear that we're not trying to push them
Oh,
out.
absolutely not. They've been incredible partners, and hockey is one of those sports that's been growing, and they've put a lot into the facility too. So from that perspective, I've had a chance to talk with the leaders of that organization, and I'm comfortable with where it's going. And again, I think the future is bright for hockey in the Tri-Cities.
And you don't think we need to extend that out anymore right now?
I
Just
think
leave
we
it?
can. I mean, we could potentially table this and bring it back. And I'm comfortable extending it, but I also,
But with that, their lease is up at the end of July.
yeah,
We
it,
need
and
to do
it
something.
has been for
Yeah.
quite a while. They've gone back and forth, so we can certainly extend it out and to give them assurances. And
Because it's going to take a while for the new, if there is a new one.
Yeah,
It's going
it-
to take
it
them a
will.
while to adjust and get it. I would like to see this at least at 3 months.
okay, yeah, we can certainly do that.
The other commissioners agree.
I would concur with that because, like I said, we're already halfway through August almost, so.
Yeah, we can get to work on that if we want to table this, and we'll take it back, and I'll work with Jeff Briggs in our civil office to extend it.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any reason why we can't just
amend it.
make an adjustment to this Resolution 2023-223. In fact, I move for approval of Resolution 2023-223 with the stipulation that the extension date be changed from the published August 31, 2023 to October 31, 2023. Otherwise, as presented.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second for the agreement with the Hockey Association with the adjustment of the lease agreement ending on October 31st, 2023. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, that takes us down to regular business. And with that, we have the Adult Drug Court presented by Judge Burrows.
Hi,
Welcome.
welcome. Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say, Chairman Didier, Commissioner Peck, and Commissioner Mullen,
Approve all the rest of them? Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to come talk about something that I'm really passionate about, which is drug court. I will let you know that I have had discussions with Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Sant. Before I can present this presentation to you today, I want to present Matt from Benton County, the Assistant Administrator for
Matt.
Benton County. I think you know Matt, just a little bit, and Tiffany is a court administrator for Benton and Franklin counties. So I asked him to help me a little bit to the extent of talk about drug court when it comes to finances and where we are today about that. So I appreciate Matt being here and Tiffany being here today. So a little bit about drug court. I don't know if you all know all about drug court, but drug court has been in existence for 20 years. And we've graduated 342 people from drug court as of July 20th, 2023. As you know, drug court is one of the therapeutic courts that deal with drug addiction, substance abuse. It's an alternative to criminal prosecution. It It covers adult criminal matters, juvenile criminal matters, family and tribunal justice system. The drug court that we currently have for a bi-county agreement, we have a coordinator, 2 case managers, a defense attorney, a prosecutor for Benton County and a prosecutor for Franklin County, and 2 law enforcement officers and various treatment providers that are part of the team, if you will. I think it's important to also note, how we're doing. It's important to know that 88%, almost 89% of our graduates do not reoffend in the first year with respect to the recidivism rate. 60% of our graduates don't have any felonies in the, since graduating. I think that number we're pretty proud of that number. I know that the pandemic had some effect on recidivism, also the Blake decision with respect to that, and Blake and the positive because we lost a number of participants based on the Blake decision. So we're pretty proud of that. I will tell you a little story about we just had a recent graduate. It affects the recidivism rate. We had a graduate who was a career criminal with, they call 9 points, meaning they've had 9+ felony convictions. And he was incarcerated and in prison for years. And he just recently graduated drug court. And I will tell you that it really is empowering and really an opportunity to see someone change their life who was a career criminal and been in prison for as much time as he has. He successfully completed the program within 18 months, no infractions, and it really is a testament to the program and a testament to the cooperation and participation of the communities, both Franklin and Benton, to have this program in place. I'm proud of the program. With respect to the current participation, there are a joint resolution that was signed by both Benton and Franklin counties for the drug court program. The program in the resolution is limited to 20 participants for Franklin County and 50 participants for Benton County. So how are we doing in Benton County? We currently have 48 active participants. We have 8 that are on approved wait list, which is pending to get into the program, and 19 that are waiting to go into the program. Now, mind you, the numbers fluctuate per week depending on how many people that want to petition drug court. But when I prepared this presentation in July, Benton County has potential of 75 individuals that could be in drug court. And Benton County, that's 25 over the limit. For Franklin County, and why I'm here today, Franklin County has a limit of 20. There's currently 10 active participants. There's nobody on the wait list, and there's no one wanting to get into the program. So the total active in this program is 85. So that means that 85 people in the program were over in Benton County and were under in Franklin County. We also have 13 individuals that are on warrant status, meaning they were in the program and they failed to appear in court and a warrant was issued for their arrest. So the overall total, if you look at the total, is 98 individuals. And our limit is 70. So the current staffing, this is really important to the extent, staffing for Benton County right now, there's 1 prosecutor handling all 85 cases. And you ask yourself, okay, why is that? Well, Franklin County doesn't have a prosecutor. Benton County is currently handling all the cases for Franklin County since about April, and that it expires, the agreement expired in July 31 of 2023. So currently we have no active prosecutor for Franklin County cases. We have 1 Office of Public Defense attorney that covers all of the cases. With respect to drug court, we have one coordinator. You know Marshall pretty well. He's been in front of the board a number of times. He's now carrying a caseload of about 30 cases. We have a vacant case manager. We hope to have that filled by the end of the month. And then we have one case manager / secretary is handling also 30 cases, and it's going to go up if the totals do go up. The best practice indicates that a case manager should only handle 30 cases at a time, and based on the staffing levels, there should only be about 60 participants in the program. So why am I here at the current limitations? There's no prosecutor for Franklin County. We need to assign a prosecutor for the Franklin County. It's my opinion, based on the historical data, that Franklin County is not fully utilizing drug court. The totals had hovered around 10, 8, sometimes 12. It's never been fully implemented. Benton County needs to increase the number of participants in drug court because they just have more participants than the agreement allows. We also need to increase the staff salaries to maintain consistency or continuity, to the extent that we've lost 2 case managers to other therapeutic courts based on the salary, and it's a substantial salary increase. So we lost 2, one to be a police officer in Hermiston and one to go to a therapeutic court in Benton County. We need to increase the funding for the Office of Public Defense, the one criminal defense attorney. He's just been handling a number of the cases and hasn't had an increase. We also need to, for drug court to be successful, we need to put an RFQ for a specific treatment provider to handle all drug court participants. Currently, we utilize about 3 or 4 different treatment providers within the community that take care of our participants with respect to drug, alcohol, mental health treatment. We also need to establish a fund for secure housing. At the current rate right now, Oxford Housing, I don't know if you're all familiar with Oxford Housing, but that's a secure location housing for the participants to make sure that they adhere to certain rules and consistency of being sober, clean and sober, a safe place to live with other individuals that are similar, situated either in alcohol or mental health issues or other issues within an Oxford house. The housing is important to the success of the program. It's just really tough to have housing for these folks. We also need to increase our UAs, meaning that participants right now don't have the ability to be consistently tested on the weekends or holidays because we just don't have a facility to do that. In Benton County, we used to utilize the jail, and based on the staffing losses, the jail has, in Benton County, has not been facilitating those random UAs. We also need to increase our I would call it, services with respect to the participants, meaning like if they need a scram bracelet for their alcohol, we need to increase the funding for that, a GPS monitoring to know where they're going and where they're staying, and then some electronic monitoring. That it helps us track them to the extent to know where they're at and where they shouldn't be. We currently have about $20,000 for the scram bracelet that we've secured a contract with Moon Security, but it's limited funds. We have 2 people right now in the program, one for sure, another one going to be tied in, and it's very expensive to put them on scram bracelets. It's part of the therapeutic approach. When they first come into drug court, we want to make sure they're clean and sober if that's their issue is alcohol. So it's in the neighborhood, somewhere around $180 to $200 a month, and that could be eaten up pretty quickly by a couple people. And then the last item here is number 10, is secure funding for incentive rewards, meaning that we can't use government funds, gifts or anything for incentives for the program. We have to look to outside, nonprofits to assist us with those incentives. When I mean incentives, like gift cards, movie tickets. Someone, when they do something right, you want to reward them in a way that's a positive influence on them. We we currently are limited. The Circle of Hope has been probably the biggest contributor to drug court with respect to the funding, and that has been in place for a number of years. And we just need to do, the staff do, not myself, to do some better presentations on getting that secured funding. With respect to the, why am I here? Here again, potential options. I want to be just as frank as I can be. We met with Mr. Gonzalez and members of the prosecuting staff. We just need to assign a prosecutor to drug court. We need to reduce the number, option one, reduce the number of case to the case cap, specifically 50 in Benton, 20 in Franklin County. Drug court just won't accept any additional cases until we reduce the number in Benton County. And that takes about 12 months to kind of graduate 5 to 8 people per year. And again, these are averages. It just depends. And then we also, on option one, we need to, in the next budget cycle, increase the fundings for staffing and salary, meaning that we want to increase one case manager, one secretary that can answer all the phones and cell phones with the participants. We also want to make sure that we adhere to the best practices with respect to case manager. Also increase the numbers, if I can, in Benton County to the appropriate level. I'd love to see Benton County, increased, from 50 to maybe 70, if we can, maybe even 80, because we have the participants. In the short time from April till today, we've turned away 5 to 7 in Benton County because they just didn't want to wait, up to a year and a half participant. And I think that's a sad state for those folks that wanted to get it in the program, just couldn't wait for Benton County. The issue on option one, I want to note, and this is kind of the biggest issue why I'm here today, is that if Franklin County doesn't designate a prosecutor drug court, then the cases should be returned to the criminal docket and reassigned to the Office of Public Defense, 10 new cases, and to the prosecutor, 10 new cases. The sad state is that I don't want this to happen. There are 10 Franklin County people that really have been in the program, and they should have the opportunity to be successful and graduate, but Benton County is not going to handle the prosecution for Franklin County for free. Mr. Eisinger said he would do it until September 31st, and I don't know what the board or Mr. Sant wants to do, but it obviously is that critical issue today with respect to the cases. I don't want to do that. I just don't think that's fair to the participants that have been there, and I don't think it's fair to the community with respect to that either. Option two, I think you're familiar with a little bit about option two. This is kind of a, and let me back up. I want to, again, Mr. Sant's office, is my understanding, is staffing issues. We all have staffing issues with respect across to the justice system, from prosecutors, defense attorneys, the court system. We all have staffing issues, and he's no different, and neither is anyone in this after the pandemic, COVID-19. And it's hard to secure staffing to the extent that you're always competing for salary, benefits, and quality of the workplace. So I understand the limitations within the prosecuting office in Franklin County, but something's got to be done. Option two, reassign or transfer venue from the Franklin County cases to Benton County Superior Court, meaning that all the cases that have jurisdiction in Franklin County, you just transfer them to Benton County. And Benton County would need to determine the cost of handling all the Franklin County cases through an interlocal agreement. I would see that would be seamless to the extent that Mr. Eisinger, at least we have a verbal agreement, and I think Matt can talk a little bit more about that, that he would agree to take those on. take those cases if that's what the board wanted to do, or Mr. Sant. That would be 10 cases. I don't know to what cap you would do. You already, for example, you already have an interlocal agreement between Benton and Franklin counties to handle 4 Franklin County defendants in Veterans Court. That interlocal agreement pays Benton County for 4 veterans in the district court in Benton County about $32,000 per year for 4 participants. That agreement lasts until June of 30th, 2028. So the third option, and I don't know what else to do. I'm asking for a little guidance from the board, is that, it'd be sad for me, it's sad for the communities, that, maybe it would be time to just terminate the agreement. That is not what I want to see happen, but it is the case that that is before the board and before drug court. I want to say, first of all, it's difficult for the court, or for me to be here today, because this is the last place I want to be in with respect to a therapeutic court coming to the board. I did do my due diligence meeting with the staff and representatives from Franklin County. I have no other options what to do, and maybe the board has some options they can think of, but I'm already over 8 days to the agreement, verbal agreement through Benton County to take the prosecuting duties for Franklin County, and I have a docket on Thursday. So, Matt, did you want to say anything?
As Judge Burrows alluded to, we've had some conversations on the option 2 with our prosecutor's office, and Mr. Eisinger has indicated that he would be willing to look at doing an arrangement similar to what we have for the Veterans Court and having his office cover those cases, but obviously that's a decision that has to be made by the 2 boards of commissioners if that's the route that we wanted to pursue. So we just wanted to make sure that this board knew that was an option that was on the table, something we wanted to look at. If we decided to go that route, we would definitely want to start looking a lot closer at costs and things associated with that. We haven't explored that fully yet.
Questions, commissioners?
So what do you figure is the cost per graduate?
Well, that's a great question. Tiffany, what's the budget? Can you look at my notes in my presentation? Go to, I think it's number 3. Total overall budget is like 307. Go ahead, Tiffany. I don't want to misquote my budget. It's in my notes, Tiffany, because I knew at least one commissioner would ask me how much the budget was. So, Commissioner Mullen, thank you for that. I knew you were going to ask, someone was going to ask me the budget question.
Per participant?
Nope, just tell the overall budget.
Oh, so the total budget for adult drug court is $377,646.
And it's split, what's the percentage? Go slow, because they're writing that down.
Benton County's portion is 71.43%, and Franklin County's portion is 28.57%.
So let me answer your question, Commissioner Mullen. There is no way to quantify to the extent if that data with respect to how much does it cost per person, per graduate. I'm not a statistic person, but with respect, if you just said 70, or right now it would be 60, and you divided that by the per year. There you go. So 6,300,
Okay.
give or take. Thanks, Matt.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Today, with this budget, today, not including any additional staffing, salaries, or anything that we want to do, just today, 6,300.
And the success rate of your graduates, is there any long-term results that show that they're staying clean after
Yeah.
so many length of time, or?
The best data that the recidivism rate right now, again, that's as of April, it was 88.7% graduates don't reoffend in the first year.
The first year.
And overall, it's 60%. Overall, they don't reoffend or get new felonies. That doesn't suggest any of the, again, if misdemeanors or gross misdemeanors, no new felonies is 60%. And so I look at it to this, in the first year, it's about 12% recidivism. I think it's pretty good. That's pretty good recidivism. The 5 year, or no felonies, and I think from the history of the program, I think Marshall took the 340 at the time and looked back to see if they've had any new felonies. And it's kind of tedious to the extent, and he came up with new felonies was 60%. So 40%, would I like it better? Absolutely, I would. But as a cost benefit or a cost analysis, you got to take into fact jail costs, prison costs, all the, how, if they're not in the program, again, it would be difficult to quantify. It also, at least from my perspective, it's worth the cost for one individual, especially the one I referred to, 9 points. He's not out committing new crimes. So, to the extent, what is the price on it? I think it's worth it. Changing one individual at a time. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
You bet.
So, Judge, in your remarks, you said that you're being as frank as you can be, and I want to thank you up front for that professional courtesy, and I'm going to return that courtesy and respect by being equally frank. I have about 3 lines of questions here, and I'd like to start first with one that has been a concern of mine with drug court for years, and let me preface all my remarks by saying I like the concept of drug court. I think it works. I wish it worked a lot better. And I think part of making it work better may involve not pushing as many people as possible into the program, but being more selective about the people we accept into the program. The latter reduces costs and increases our performance with respect to recidivism.
Great.
I think those are reasonable assumptions. Program's been going for about 20 years, and we've had 342 graduates by your slides. And you've quoted 88% do not reoffend in the first year. And there's some pretty good research out there that says that a percentage will reoffend in years 2, 3, and beyond. The recidivism rate for committed meth users, we'll call them, from what I've read, hovers somewhere between 95% and 100% in terms of recidivism rate with meth. Now, if you've got other numbers, I'd love to hear them, and hopefully they're a lot lower, but that's what research I've read. And by the way, these conversations go back to my early time as a commissioner, so probably a decade ago. The population of 342 grads, I'm estimating, but maybe you can help me, how many of those do we actually have any knowledge or data about? And by that I mean, how do we know that 40% of that population aren't incarcerated in some other state for drug offenses?
That's a valid question. We don't have access to the NCIC with respect to that. We have access to
Right.
our state system. We're not going in depth to the extent that we're asking the feds to get on the NCIC and check, see if they've gone to, I don't know, anywhere other than state of Washington.
Right.
We're not running an NCIC check. We don't have access to the terminal, and those terminals are very limited to that access. So to answer your question, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're doing the state of Washington. So that could be a factor, absolutely.
Right. So the 88% that you have stated that don't reoffend in the first year, we know that because for the first year, we're tracking 100% of those graduates,
Correct.
and we're able to have data on all of them. None of them are incarcerated in Oregon or Idaho or somewhere else.
Based on the data that we've researched through the individuals that have participated in drug court, yes. To the extent, I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
To the extent of Washington only, yes.
So I think from previous conversations, what has been conveyed to me is that of the graduates that we are able to track within the state of Washington, the non-offense rate, okay, non-reoffenders, no recidivism, is the 88%. But there's a percentage or a portion of those graduates that frankly aren't in Washington anymore. And if there's one thing that the courts could do that would really help strengthen what is already a pretty strong supporter of the drug court program, is to maybe have just a little bit more fidelity in these statistics. So when you say 88%, if you said in the last year we have graduated X number, and we've been able to identify and track this number of them, because I still believe that there is a percentage which in the long term hovers around 40% of the total graduates, over which we have no fidelity, no knowledge of where they are, whether they've reoffended, whether they've got additional felonies. And I've asked many times for this data, and I've been told it simply doesn't exist. So I would be happy just, if we're going to cite one-year statistics and say 88%, I'd be happy to just have somebody confirm that we actually do have information on all of those graduates from this year, because 88% would be a pretty good number, I agree.
Yeah.
I'd just like to have some confidence that number really is what it sounds like. You currently have 48 to 50 participants from Benton County. You have 10 from Franklin, which is 60. You've told us that you only have staffing and funding for 60. So adding a prosecutorial element from Franklin County and moving more people into the program from Franklin County would necessitate additional funding from Franklin County for staffing. Am I correct?
No, well, it's still a proportional rate based on the resolution. If Benton County agrees to up the amount, then it's proportionate per the budgetary percentages. So as it is today, first of all, you asked two questions. One, why are we having more people in the program than we have slots? We're trying to take care of the individuals and know that.
Actually, I didn't ask that respectfully, but
Okay.
I'm happy to have the information.
Okay. The first question is we're trying to get additional funding to facilitate all the folks in Benton County. With respect to Franklin County only has 10 currently, 20 total. The additional staffing, if you would, it is based on the resolution. It's percentage of the budget overall.
Right.
So that would be my answer.
Yeah. So I put in my notes here, you said that you currently have staffing for about 60 participants, and we're currently at 60 between Benton and Franklin.
Correct.
So my premise was, if we were to add more prosecutorial involvement and move more people into the drug court program, that would put you in a staffing bind where you would need additional funding or staff. I don't know how you get more staff without more funding.
Right.
To handle that additional caseload. So I'm pointing out that there's really a complexity or a few different issues here simultaneously in play. One is getting more Franklin County participation, but at the same time, that comes with a requirement for more staffing, which is more money.
Well, let me focus. First of all, one, we have no Franklin County prosecutor. Two, we have not fulfilled the obligations of the agreement to have more participants in Franklin County. And I'm not the gatekeeper. Let me address one thing that I hadn't addressed with you. I'm not the gatekeeper. The prosecutor's the gatekeeper.
Sure.
As you both, as you know, commissioners, that the drug court do not take serious violent criminals into the program. SALT 1s, murders, SALT 2s, sometime depending on the nature of it, but these are generally non-violent criminals that are in the program. Always. There are some exceptions in the past, but I don't control who gets in. I do control who gets out, but I don't control who gets in. That's between the prosecutors. And I want to be real mindful. Right now, the Benton County prosecutor is the gatekeeper. That's all I have.
Right. Well, I was working off of your comments that perhaps I mistook your meaning, but it sounded like you were looking for more participation in the program when you said you're currently limited because you only have staffing to handle 60 participants, but maybe I read something into that.
You are correct. The 60 that I'm talking about are case managers are only supposed to handle 30 apiece.
Sure.
We currently have a program manager that shouldn't be handling any cases that is currently carrying a caseload.
Sure.
We also have a vacant position we're trying to fill. So if we had 2 case managers, you're correct, 30 and 30. But we've been over that number
Yeah.
historically.
And we're on the same page.
Yeah.
If we're going to increase the number of participants, it's going to come at a cost. You cannot ask the
Correct.
current staff to carry a bigger load than they're currently carrying. So let's just check that box. We're on the same page there.
I'm with you on that. I
Okay.
agree with you there.
Okay, all right. And I think you previously agreed with me that we don't have fidelity on all 342 graduates, so we can only speak to annualized data. And I'm hoping that you're going to be able to get me some more fidelity on those one-year numbers, just to make sure that, in fact, we do have our eyes on all of them from the past year and that there aren't some percentage of them that are missing. So the $377,646 budget for this, when you do the percentages for Franklin County, our share is about $107,000. We're running 10 participants, so it's really costing us about $10,700 per participant.
Right now.
Now, we could get more efficiency in those numbers if we put more people into the program, but of course, that would then drive additional costs and additional staff, as we've just agreed and checked that box. So let's keep that in mind. You're aware, I'm sure, of the staffing challenges in the prosecutor's offices in both counties. I don't know if you're aware that I think Mr. Sant's office is currently somewhere below 50% staffing in their
I'm aware.
criminal side. And so I think we're all mindful of the fact that prosecuting attorneys are independently elected, and for good reason, one of which is that the priorities for prosecutions and which cases they apply their staffing to are within their discretion. If
Correct.
there's a violent felony, I certainly want them prosecuting that person before spending time on a drug court applicant. Again, I'm a supporter of drug court. It's not a criticism of drug court, but it is a prioritization issue. And I do think that respect for the independent elected process and who makes those decisions as to how they apply their resources is within their discretion. And we've got a whole courthouse full of elected officials who would echo that sentiment. I hear it from them frequently about the board not intruding on their independent elected status, which I agree with them on that. I don't think we need to spend time on that, so I'll just expedite here a little bit. If we were to find a way to move additional applicants into drug court, are you comfortable that Benton County would be happy to increase their contributions for additional staff so that we aren't overworking the limited staff we presently have?
Commissioner, yes.
I know you can't speak for
I
them.
can't speak
but-
for the county,
But I
but-
know you've spoken with them, and I know
I-
we have one of their representatives sitting here, and I thought you might ask him.
Well, let me just, you've asked me, and I want to answer the question. I've had lots of discussions with the county administration with respect to therapeutic courts and drug court. They're amenable to that additional staffing, but, and I want to also echo that I've had joint discussions with, increasing drug court and, the budgetary issues, but nothing's certain. So they're obviously, they're listening, but I can't, I don't know what the budget restraints are.
Okay.
The other thing, but I'll let Matt talk about that and say, but I want to, you said something and I want to make sure I get right back at it. I agree with you. Every elected official has an independent opportunity to run their office the way they should run their office. I'm not
Except up here,
Well,
majority rules.
majority rules. No, I want to address it real clear. And I respect that. And I respect to the extent that I stay in my lane, so to speak. This isn't my lane to be in. I don't want to be in this lane. That's not what my role is. My role is to oversee drug court as a judicial officer. I do not tell other elected officials what to do or how to do it, but I do control drug court. And to the extent drug court is important to me and important to many citizens and many people within our community, I'm going to do the best job I can. And we currently have a problem. So I want to make sure I'm real clear on the record with respect to elected officials. I'm not here. I'm
I
not here to tell
appreciate
you.
that. I really do, because I was very much getting the impression that you were here enlisting the board's support in encouraging the prosecutor to get more engaged on this, and if I misread that, why, I certainly apologize.
Thank you. That's not my intention. My intention is to tell you how drug court is and what current situations in Franklin County could be a problem for the Benton County, or for Franklin County. So Matt, did you want to touch on the budget
I just
issue?
had- On the budget issue, we've had a lot of conversations with Judge Burrows related to this, and as we go into the next budget cycle, we have new revenues available through the 1/10 of 1% mental health and substance use sales tax, which can also be used for therapeutic court costs, and so we will definitely be having some discussions through the Joint Advisory Committee and with the courts to look at whether or not additional funding for drug court is something that we would want to support. So there are dollars available there, so.
Great. And Matt, since we're talking here, I'll just quickly say, I don't know if it's a good fit, but perhaps your team would give some thought to whether or not the new Behavioral Recovery Center might somehow be a vehicle or a home. I don't begin to suggest that it is or isn't. It just occurred to me that maybe that's something we ought to look at and see if there's a way to embed or make it more, I don't know.
Definitely.
And Judge, I'll just close by saying that a point was made throughout this discussion by a couple of different people, and that is that the alternative to drug court oftentimes is either non-prosecution because of other priorities and costs, or we end up prosecuting people and sometimes incarcerating them. If we're not incarcerating them, we're at least probably having them on probation.
Yeah.
None of that is free. And even with recidivism rates that we would prefer be better, it may well be that it's still a good value for taxpayers. I don't mean to suggest that it's not. I just
I didn't
would-
take it that way.
Okay, good.
I did not.
I think it's a great program, and I do think it has value, and I do think it's reasonable cost. I'll just leave it there. Thanks.
Commissioner, I just wanted to follow up on, I can inquire about your, and I can come back.
You're
Inquire
always
about the
welcome.
data, what's that?
I said you're always welcome. I enjoy
you.
our conversations
I do
in
too.
and outside of this room.
Yeah, well, thank you, I do too. The data, the only thing that you've alluded to, you've not received the information before to the
I've
extent-
requested it,
and-
but it's
and
been
that-
several years now since I stopped.
That's pretty, yeah. Well, I can only think of one way to get the data, and that would be from the prosecutor in the matter, either Franklin or Benton, going into iLeads and running them and getting the data that way of all 342 participants, and then get the data from that way. The iLeads is, as you, well, I think just one law
Yeah.
enforcement, he left.
Well,
He left, but he knows that it's
Sure.
it's a highly secure data system that, they have to make sure the entries are authorized and to enter, but I think I can make that happen for you.
Well, to be clear, I didn't
I
ask
can.
for that. I specifically said that it would be very difficult to get that 342 for a variety of reasons, but it's the 1 year data that I was actually asking for, if I wasn't clear, is that if I could just, I think I said if I could just have fidelity on the 1 year data, and we say 88%, that would.
Of the graduates for 2023, it might be 8 or 10. I'm trying to figure out how many we've had.
Sure.
I'd say about 8.
And we should have pretty good fidelity on that population for sure.
If I can get access to the triple-I. But I think you deserve the information.
Well-
I'll work hard to get it.
We're being asked to spend taxpayer money for a program that I inherently believe in and would like to see enhanced, but that's going to take more money. It's going to take money for deputy prosecuting attorneys. We've just spent well over $1 million to give 1 year incentives for all of our employees, or nearly all of them. And I think had Had I been an independent elected who had a singular voice in things, I might have spent that money on our prosecutorial team, but that's getting off the track a bit, so I'll just stop there.
Thank you for your questions.
All right, Judge, it's my turn.
Okay, yes.
So the 88% is only because of a felony that they fail, correct?
Correct.
So gross misdemeanor, all the rest, they don't even come on the radar.
Correct.
Okay, and we don't even know those facts, or can we get those also?
We can in the state of Washington. It's an easy access point in the JAB system. You just run them by their name and date of birth, and you can get that rather quickly within that first year.
My second question is, I've had a state trooper and I've had the Pasco police telling me that we're getting busloads of transients bussed in here from the west side. Are these participants all local residents, born and raised here?
Great question. All I can say is they committed a crime in Benton or Franklin County.
Yep.
And I couldn't tell you if they're, you know,
I think-
I have they have the data in the reports to the extent that, you know, they're residents. But some of them, most of them, I talked about Oxford, are transients and don't really have a permanent resident.
And that's where I think that if we find this information to be valid, I think we ought to be asking the state for assistance, and quit hitting our taxpayers with this burden. If they're shipping them in here, they should be paying for it.
That would be hard to quantify, Commissioner, but I obviously budget is an issue. There are a number of issues that are unfunded and that fall on the communities, and I understand that.
I know that we have residents here, and I have people that I know that we've had problems, and I would like to see this be very successful. I'd like to see it even more successful than it is, but it takes the individual to want to be successful. And I appreciate the effort that you all are putting into this, and I thank you for it. I think today we're not gonna make a decision. We're just gonna, you know, talk about it and figure out what we're gonna do.
Chairman, I really was just giving you an update to the extent and to what may or may happen with respect to drug court. This conversation will probably happen or may happen in Benton County also,
Yep.
to the extent of the numbers that I'll be presenting to their board because the numbers are so high in Benton County. But I really want to be real frank, and again, I think Commissioner Peck appreciates that. Right now, we don't have a prosecutor for Franklin County.
Right.
We're 8 days in, and
That's an undue burden on Benton County.
I didn't say that.
I did.
I didn't say that. I don't have a prosecutor in front of me on Franklin County cases.
Yep. Understand.
Okay. Anything else?
I believe our prosecuting attorney
Oh,
would like to
Mr.
come
Sand.
forward.
Come on up.
Just wanted to address a couple things that I think are important for context. We already pay, we have an agreement interlocal already where we pay 7.5% administrative fee on top of the percentage allocation. So Franklin County money is contributing to this program. One of the proposed solutions that we have talked about, since we only have 10 participants, is working in contracting. It just makes sense to have, it's on their side of the river, it's in Benton County courtroom. It makes sense to contract with the Benton County Prosecutor's Office, and I've been trying to do that and connect and figure out what works. I don't think the monies that were presented up there as far as cost with the Veterans Court, that's different because the Veterans Court is not, we weren't contributing or funding previous tax dollars from Franklin County, but we are on drug court. And so it shouldn't be presented that it's going to cost Franklin County some $6,400 per participant to pay a prosecutor to cover participant costs. That would be absurd. We're already contributing a lot. So really what we're talking about is what is the real impact on an FTE basis to have the prosecutor call a case. I think one of the things we've proposed, I think this was a couple years ago, because our numbers are significantly less, trying to call the Franklin County cases first so we don't have to have a person sitting there for the entirety of an afternoon. The drug court day has changed, I think primarily because of the Benton County scheduling, and that's been something that we've had to deal with. It moved from Wednesday to Thursday, so we've had to make that adjustment, and we're certainly willing to do it. The bigger question or bigger issue that I think is important is I get frustrated when I hear that the prosecutors aren't referring people. The Constitution prohibits us from talking to defendants or those accused of crimes that have been appointed counsel. We, as prosecutors, do not have the opportunity to figure out what's going on in a defendant's mind, what they're doing. I've had the unique opportunity of being both a defense attorney and a prosecuting attorney. And I have met with clients that tell me straight up, drug court is not for me. I don't want to go weekly. I'd rather just do my 30 days in jail and be done. And I appreciate that honesty because it would be a waste of resources to take up a seat in drug court for a person that really wasn't committed to succeeding in that program. But I can say, as a prosecutor, if we get referred to people that are eligible for the program, we immediately would send them there. We are doing everything we can. We have to. We are down over 50% because right now some of the new attorneys or new deputies that we've hired are Rule 9s. Rule 9s are only allowed to go into district court without someone that has to physically be with them. We have a Rule 9 that started this week that has to be with the supervising deputy prosecutor in Superior Court. That person's assigned to juvenile, but because of the rules and limitations until they actually pass the bar, two of our new recent hires are awaiting the bar results, which we won't get till probably early October. So because this is in Benton County's Superior Court, that would require that they have to have a prosecutor. So one option could be having the Benton County prosecutor supervise our Rule 9. I don't think that's a good idea, and I wouldn't frankly agree to that. The other option is trying to encourage, I guess, more, and I think Larry's office, in the Office of Public Defense, I think they are trying to refer as many cases as they can. But again, limitations come up when individuals have committed serious crimes, and unfortunately, percentage-wise, we are not at a third of the numbers that occur in Benton County. Benton County has almost 3 times our population, but when you look at the statistics of serious crimes, we are usually over half. Not a third, but we're usually over a half. And sometimes we're almost approaching the same numbers in Benton County on some of the more violent crime issues. So that is a unique feature with us. We have already, I think, structured with our felony diversion program that we have through our district court. We are trying to push more and more cases that would meet that standard, putting it into district court, because one, it saves our resources, it saves our prosecutor resources, it also saves the resources and cost on the Office of Public Defense. We understand very well the reciprocal effect of prosecution and defense cost. If we file a case, that means that there's a case limit on the defense side. My deputies are seeing increased workloads. There's just only so much we can do when we don't have the bodies to do it. And we are doing the best that we can. And I am continuing to try to reach out to Mr. Eisinger to try to figure out, hey, we only have 10 bodies out of the 50 that you have in this program. What would it cost to have you continue to do that? That way it keeps one of my deputies in the office for basically half a day. When you talk about the staffing of the cases that's involved, they're involved in that process, not just for our 10, but they're involved in a meeting that basically involves the entirety of the program, which I think is important because you have to be there to hear what's being done with those cases. So one solution would be, hey, we either go there for our 10 and we're out basically. I think there's benefit clearly with the participants from our side that get a C, and they do have to remain through the entirety of the program. They don't just necessarily get their name called and then they walk out. They have to sit through the entirety of the program. Prosecutor doesn't necessarily have to do that. Just so the board's aware also, this is also a burden as well on the clerk's office. We send a Franklin County clerk over to document the minutes of cases and things like that, or make those recordings. And so, there is some discussion on whether or not they could do that remote, but there's still other resources that are consumed on Franklin County's side. One of the things that we have talked about is at some point we have our own tax. This board approved a tax because I think the citizens recognize the need for therapeutic courts. We really need to prioritize, I think, getting a court coordinator, essentially someone that has the skill set to be able to help navigate cases. And Franklin County could either renew once we get resources up. I love the bi-county program because I think it's a great resource when we have the manpower to be able to support that. But at some point, what I think has been presented before is we can get our own program at some point underway for mental health. We do have a need for trying to deal with folks that are struggling with mental health cases on a variety of different cases. Some of those are serious. We do see some good results from that when we have people that have been off their medication and drugs and they get back into the program and they realize they're a whole new person. The problem is, as we've found out with mental health, people feel good and they're like, I don't need to take these meds anymore, because some of those do have side effects, and so it's a gradual onset. They don't realize that they're slipping back into the process. So having therapeutic courts that deal with the mental health as well as the drug issues are certainly something that's needed, and especially since the state has gotten rid of essentially the felony drug prosecution, we see now the same individuals are still struggling with addiction issues. That those addiction issues haven't got away just because we wiped the felony consequence away. What we find is that they're the people that are participating in the car prowls, the burglaries, thefts, going into stores, committing burglaries there. Trying to fund habits and things like that. But it's always a struggle to try to make sure that we offer, and that's really what we can do. You've heard it said before, you could lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's all we can do, is we could have a program that's in place. We can offer it to people that seem that they would qualify. If they choose not to, it's on them. If we don't get referrals from the defense because we can't talk and interview with defendants, we don't know if they struggle. We could kind of look and see the tea leaves that when people have a line of cases that is usually theft or forgery or other dealing with stolen property, there could be that they're trying to fund a habit or other things. But we don't have that good knowledge that comes from defense. And I think we do have a pretty good relationship, but I think also defense attorneys, I've been there. Sometimes our clients don't tell you what you need to hear or what they think is designed to help them. They don't want to admit they have a problem. And anybody that's dealt with addiction issues in their own family recognizes that. It's rare for alcoholics to acknowledge they have a drinking problem. It's also true for those that use harder drugs to recognize that they have a drug use problem. So that is a struggle. So I'm hearing a couple things. One, prosecutor's office certainly supports the program. We want to make sure it succeeds. Obviously, we want to keep the people that are in the program. We want to keep them there. I'll continue to work with Eric to make sure that they can continue doing that. I don't think it sounds like it would be too much of a obligation. I recognize that nobody expects them to do it for free. Eric was willing to grant us some grace through our struggle. This was back in early conversations back in March and April. And then, of course, we've lost some additional deputy prosecutors in the meantime. That really almost puts us in an almost impossible position to be able to send somebody over there right now. So even if it's for an additional temporary period, I certainly agree that, hey, we should be able to contract with that, obviously, if we're not funding the positions here, because we just simply can't find the bodies. I've had a couple recent conversations with people that would be a suitable lateral transfer or someone that has experience prosecuting cases, which we need. I can no longer hire anybody at the entry level. We have a need for people that are experienced prosecutors to deal with our serious crimes and caseloads. So once we get to a point where we could sustain it, we could certainly send a person. The immediate need would be having the Franklin County cases called, so it would minimize the impact of a person coming from our office to do it. I mean, I already have my chief civil deputy that's also doing multiple hats covering additional criminal caseload. We had anticipated that he would be able to transition into full-time with that position, but due to the workload, we haven't been able to do that. So just want to let the board know this is certainly something that has been on our radar. We're doing the best that we can with the resources we have, but when you're down 50% plus on your Superior Court felony caseload for prosecutors, it's a matter of triage. And unfortunately, you read in the news, we have serious crimes that are being committed, and it continues to task our office, and will continue to do so until we get some bodies. So we're committed to doing that, and I'm open for any questions or anything that the board might have.
Questions?
Thank you.
I'll make sure I follow up in case there's a follow-up question.
Any other questions?
Just to let you know, there are remote ways in that we're allowing the clerk and other participants into drug court. We've been doing that for a very long time. Appreciate it.
Matt, anything else?
No, sir. Certainly ruling as Mr. Sant is, there's further conversations that are needed, and I think we just need to have the boards and the prosecutors figure out a good solution to move this program forward, so.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
So next on the agenda is Resolution 2023-226, cash transfer from 119 ARPA funds to the 101-480 prosecutor and child support. Mr. Sant.
Board, this was just a recommendation change. I think formally, similar numbers were referenced by the transfer of funds to OPD for the previously discussed amount for the incentive and retention bonuses that were provided. The other addition that we did to this as well was just adopting the same language that was offered for the employees. Because we are still down, we're trying to use that as an attraction for getting newer people and keeping those newer people, of being able to offer the same 10% through September 30th. So if we get new people in and they're willing to sign that year agreement, which we really need, and that's really the critical issue, is getting someone here now with the idea that they could just take another job that's higher paying elsewhere, having that incentive apply for them as well. Those that would come in between now and September 30th, it would extend that same opportunity for them. Again, they have to sign the one-year agreement, and the one-year period of time starts from the time that they receive that payment. So that was the short edition, and primarily it was the numbers to designate the fund transfer from the ARPA side to our budget for this, and this was the recommendation, I think, between Mr. Gonzalez and the discussions with the auditor's office on how to designate those fund transfers.
Thank you, Sean. And my question was, it's authorizing a $300,000 cash transfer from the 119 ARPA to your account, but child support with a budget transfer, that was added in there, was it not? What's the child support with a budget transfer from 101-700 55801 reserve fund balance?
We have a joint position. The child support, or division of child support, does pay us back. It basically reimburses us back for a prosecuting attorney, but it's a split position, so it's both part under the county's obligation, but part for the state. And so with that, I think that is just referenced so that a portion of that is the funding the side that the county is paying for. The state would pay for part of those.
Will reimburse us
incentives.
for it?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
And so I think it was
That
just
makes
a correct designation so that it does identify that we are a joint office. We receive, similar to the contract that we just discussed with the drug court, we do get an administrative fee too. So the state does pay us a portion or a percent for use of our facilities, but also for the deputy prosecutor that's primarily assigned to that position.
That was my only question, so I appreciate.
No, it's a good
answer.
clarification.
Is there any other questions? If there's not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval of Resolution 2023-226 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023, let's see, I'm looking here, 2023-226. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
That moves us down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment? Anybody on the phone?
No, sir, there's no one on the phone. You have one on the phone? Okay, I didn't get one on my jabber, so thanks.
Caller, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking my call this morning. Good morning. My name is Clint Brands, and I am the owner of Jim Custer Enterprises. And I am following up on our company's recommendation letter that we submitted in support of Simmons Venue Management, SVM's continued operation of the Hapo Center. Our company has promoted shows at this venue since 1996. We have worked with 5 different management teams. Of these 5, SVM has clearly demonstrated to us in a very short amount of time that they are an extremely proactive type of management group. Improved communication, building maintenance, and event setup are just a few examples of this. 2, it is remarkable that SVM was able to come in at almost the last minute and smoothly execute the 2022 fall events and beyond that were scheduled at the Hapo Center, including 2 of our events. Honestly, it was like they had been there managing the venue for years. You now have managing a team that is working so very well at the Hapo Center currently. That they have done so well in such a short amount of time is extraordinary and is a great sign for a very successful future. I can't imagine what they will be able to accomplish if given more time. Finally, SVM lives and works in the community that they are promoting to outsiders to come visit and use such a great public resource that the Hapo Center has become. I can't imagine a team more qualified and one that I'd want to work with more than SVM. They have our 100% full recommendation and support. And thank you very much for your time this morning. I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Oh, there is another one? Oh, 2 more callers.
Caller, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. This is Jeff Losey, the Executive Director of the Home Builders Association of Tri-Cities. I've been in this position for the last 17 years, and I wanted to call today in regards to the RFP that went out for running the Hapo Center. We've promoted multiple shows and events over those years, and we have been at the Hapo Center since day one, going back to when it was the track. We feel that the Hapo Center is now engaged with a known commodity of SVM that, in our opinion, has made the Hapo Center a shining beacon again. SVM clearly cares about the Hapo Center and its success. As a show promoter, we feel that the commissioners should fully understand how happy we have been working with SVM. And this goes prior to SVM being formed to take over the management of the Hapo Center. We have known the Simmons Management Group over my 17 years, and we knew that they have very high expectations and run a very white glove operation, and they care about their customers, they care about how the events goes. They're always been problem solvers. And that same attitude that they had before running the Hapo Center is the exact same thing that they brought to running the Hapo Center. They haven't disappointed us in any way and have exceeded our expectations in taking the Hapo Center to the next level. We certainly hope that you choose SVM, who is a local, which is a bonus, and we think that should be strongly considered when you look at your recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Caller, you have 3 minutes.
So, I'm reading the story right at once. $5,000 lawsuit from the Raymond. Because I don't see it. But that logic is beyond flawed. It's despicable. We elect a leader, and that leader takes us into lawsuit land. Muddies down it's his own county. He split. Instead, he turns it to a. I think maybe his case for upcoming lawsuits. Matt, the $1, $25,000, $75,000 That's going to be a lot. I might have to auction off some different properties and stuff. You know, it just follow something like that. Follow what's legitimate. I'm appalled that everyone is, that they sit back and allow him to do things that they know is wrong. That they don't stand up. They can't believe. The state has called county has decided to take in the story to hey, if we just sweep it under the rug, even though it's not right. Who knows it's not right that a sheriff is a complaint? You can't have it. It's manual. And we I don't want people to think that my anger or my disgust is self-righteous as those things. It's just righteous anger because I'm asking to clean waters and to move forward. The world is headed into inflation, prices and things that you think. We are fighting these stupid, idiotic battles amongst ourselves. We people left the county publicly said it. Strategy he has. Public station. That's number one here. Look it up. Type in Mel Gibson. It's right now, but this little speech he gave. Why? Because at a certain point you realize public creation is a joke. Public, listen, people, all this media, people that were working for the news media are now working for the police. You have to realize that you don't have a I wipe this from privacy and get rid of it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on the phone? Anybody else for public comment?
George Dockstetter. I don't know if drug court's worth it or not. We're spending $370,000 graduating 8 people. And so that means 5 of them are staying clean. So we're spending a hell of a lot of money, and now they want another deputy prosecutor, which is basically, from what I've been gathering, $100,000 a year. And we can't even take care of the court cases we have here in town, or in our county, excuse me. That's just my thoughts on that. I don't know if the money's well spent or not. The other thing I wanted to talk about is track with your proposals out there, that you consider making sure the people that we hire to run the event center are local and not an out-of-state company that is going to have no involvement with the community on a personal basis and knows the community as a local provider would. The only thing I ask is in your new contract that there be some exceptions made for people to bring in an outside caterer instead of having to deal with the people that are running it and using their catering service. There are some people out there that have special requests or want something special that should be able to bring in an outside caterer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, no more callers, we'll move down to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair. As several callers just mentioned, HAPO Center RFP oral interviews were completed last Thursday. They've also talked to the HAPO Advisory Board. So all 3 applicants did a great job in their oral interviews. So that decision will come before you guys next meeting, next Tuesday on August 15th. So I have extended an invitation for them individually to come. I'm waiting to hear back from them to give them one more opportunity, because I feel like it's important for the public to hear from these individuals, and And I think it's important commissioners hear from them. And so I think that would give clarity to the process. It's been through 2 layers so far, through the advisory board, through the strategic growth committee, and I think the final step. So there's no question marks on the decision. I think it should go in front of the commissioners, and that would give certainly clarity. Other things going on, working with IS on our civic clerk program. So this will really get us into the digital age of our ASRs and make things a lot smoother in terms of checking our ASRs and making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So we're excited about that. Consor is in town, the folks that are doing our strategic growth plan. So they've got more than a dozen interviews scheduled with various stakeholders in the county. They'll meet with the Strategic Growth Committee on Thursday. Another thing that came to our attention last Thursday and Friday, and it's just sort of the world we live in, letters with fentanyl sent to a couple of elections offices in King and Okanagan counties. So the election office folks came to me, and so thanks to Jennifer Wagner, who's in the room, she helped distribute masks, gloves. Benton Franklin Health District was able to get a hold of Narcan, so each one of our departments has that. So really grateful that they stepped in really quickly, and Jennifer was just amazing. She did that late on a Friday and made deliveries. So I really appreciate that. Some other things, had the Wassac meeting yesterday. Also met with the Colville tribes who were in town. They presented to myself and the Sheriff's Department. So a lot of folks know they bought some ground over in Northeast Pasco with the intent to put in a casino. So they're out busy lobbying as it moves sort of into the next stages. So keeping busy and making progress.
Thank you. Commissioner Peck?
Met last week with, excuse me, about a dozen Washington State representatives and senators up in Moses Lake. They are the aviation caucus of the state legislature, and met with them on economic development opportunities in the aviation aerospace arena in eastern Washington, obviously including Franklin County. Followed that with about a half-day tour of the Port of Moses Lake, where they're in fact doing a number of the things that I'd like to see down in the Tri-Cities. They've got one organization that is developing and has already built and testing second stage space launch rocket boosters using hydrogen cooling systems, which are unique and allow for the potential of reusable second stage boosters on space launch vehicles. I don't know if people know, but presently those second stage boosters are not recoverable and not reusable. So this would allow both first and second stage reusability, which drives down the cost per pound of putting payloads in orbit. And if we were able to pull something off here like that, it would be a significant economic boon to the region. Also received a presentation from a company called Sila, which is presently headquartered in Alameda Island in San Francisco Bay. And they're relocating their operations up here also to the Port of Moses Lake. They have developed a new medium anode material for lithium-ion batteries, which gives quicker recharge, better sustainability, lower temperatures, and most importantly, 20 to 40% higher energy density in a given space of battery. All of those important features for advancing all kinds of electric-powered vehicles, whether they're VTOL or aircraft or vehicles. And then third briefing on Boeing's operations there with the hundreds of 737s you still see out on the ramp there, and why those planes are there and how they're remarketing them and how that's making money for the port in Moses Lake. A shoreline reconveyance meeting with the issue of reconveying the current Lake Wallula Columbia River shoreline that's owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. Importance of this particular meeting from previous ones is that we had representatives from both the Umatilla and Yakima nations at the table, and hearing what their interests would be in any kind of reconveyance. And that's going to, I think, be a major discussion point in this whole effort that at some point I'll brief the board on, because it has the potential for a significant impact on Franklin County. And then Monday was the WASAC call, focused mostly on Blake and opioid funding and programming. Thank you.
Commissioner Mullen?
This last week had the Greater Columbia Behavioral Health meeting. There was some discussion on the usage of the 1/10 of 1% mental health tax. And while I understand the need and the importance of those programs, it also concerns the of spending the money before the recovery center is actually in place. Also had the Southeast Washington Aging and Long-Term Care meeting. Also attended the WASAC meeting on Monday. I had concerns from citizens that called in. One is about the Mountain View Cemetery in Connell. My plan is to try to get up there this week and take a look, and just concerns about the condition of the cemetery. Also, Dent Road had some call-in requests on the possibility of somehow looking to slow the traffic down. Apparently, people are going through the intersection there, and that's always been a very unsafe intersection. So they were wondering about the possibility of speed bumps or something to slow the traffic down so that they actually stop at that intersection. And that concludes my week.
My last week was a pretty light week. I had a call from Fire District 4 requesting an opportunity for some ARPA funds for fire vehicles for their fire district. The veterans meeting was canceled. I received a letter here about why we pulled consent item 3, which was the authorization of the ARPA funds for HVAC on the courthouse. Received a letter from it. And I just want to compliment our administrator, Mr. Gonzalez, because he moved really quickly when this fentanyl situation came into play, and I know that our elections office was pretty rattled about it. And I really appreciate you making the moves as you did with the gloves and the Narcan and getting everything put into position. And I would hope that as a courthouse, we can all come together and work for the safety of all the people working at the courthouse. At any time, it can be a dangerous situation. And with that apparatus we have down there at the coroner's office, if there's any letters that are suspect, I would take them there and put them in a plastic bag, take them there, and have them ran through there before you open them, because we don't want anybody getting hurt. And I just want to thank you and
You're welcome.
just compliment you on it. And then also on your Franklin connection and also your administrator updates, telling us what you're doing every day. I really appreciate the fact that the open and transparency of your position. This is well done. I just got to say well done, Mr.
Well,
Gonzalez.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
So with that, we'll move down to elected and department head business. Is there any elected or department heads that would like to come forward?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Josie Kilzer, the treasurer, and I just want to let you guys know and the public that on August 30th, my office will be closed from 8:30 to 1 o'clock due to DOR training on site. My accounting department will be available by phone or if you want to knock on the door, but as far as the main doors being open, will be closed.
And again, the date was
August 30th.
August 30th. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Any other department heads, electeds? Seeing none, we'll move down to administration office business. You got anything, Mr. Gonzalez?
The only thing I was going to mention what the treasurer just said, but she said it for me, so that's great. And the only other thing I had on office business was to remind the public, August 23rd will move to Wednesdays.
And next week is
And
a
next
night
week
meeting.
is a night meeting
Yes.
as well, if the public wants to attend.
It'll be a night meeting next week.
7 o'clock, here in the commissioner's office, or meeting room.
Thank you. That moves us down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room or anybody on the phones for public comment? Nobody on the phone? I don't see anybody coming to the mic. We don't have any executive sessions. Is there any other business for the good of the county?
No, sir.
Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. When is that meeting with Conover?